Hello, this is old Mr. Kent of MrKent.com. Well, I'm 82 years old and I've been telling my life story on these E-Trike rides. And so today, the story today, oh, by the way, if you want to get caught up, at the end of this video, I'm sure you want to, at the end of this video, there's a link you'll see where it says life story. If you click on that, it'll take you to a playlist of all the videos I've made so far. Pardon me. And so anyway, right now I'm in the 40s in my stories, and it's 1988. So that's where I am. But what we're going to do is we're going to back up to about, well, let's see. If you've been following my channel, you know that I got a Harley-Davidson motorcycle in 1980, all brand new. Road King, which is the best you could get back then. Nice and red, beautiful bike. And in 1982, I crashed it, but I survived and kept riding it. And in 1986, I got my first airplane. It was a Cessna 150. And so I got into flying, and it became the Harley-Davidson motorcycle. You know, who wouldn't want to have a Harley-Davidson motorcycle and an airplane all at the same time? Not me. If I go to the airport to fly the plane, I couldn't carry everything I wanted to carry on a Harley, so I wasn't using it very much. And I worked at a Christian radio station as a chief engineer, and there was this kid that went to church there, he and his wife, and he had an old beat-up Honda Goldwing. Now, that Goldwing didn't look anything like the Goldwings they had, you know, later on. I mean, it was old when he got it. So, but he would come by my house and stop and visit every week or two, and he would just he would stand around and look and stare and gawk over my red Harley Davidson. And he just thought that was the neatest motorcycle ever made. And I thought so too. But anyway, so he would come by quite often, and we'd visit, and while we visited, he'd be walking around looking at that motorcycle. So one day, now remember, it didn't cost me a penny. It was given to me. And that's why you might want to go back and start at the beginning and catch up. But so it didn't cost me anything, and I wasn't using it much. And one day he was standing there looking at it. We were visiting, and I thought, how would you like to trade your Goldwing for my motorcycle? For my Harley? Yeah, it was pretty quiet there for a couple of seconds. He couldn't believe what I was saying. He said, what? I said, yeah, I'll take your Goldwing, you take my Harley, and we'll just make a trade. Well, of course, he was eager to do that. And so he said, yeah, you know. So we took care of the paperwork and everything, and a week later or so, he had himself a red Harley, 1980 Harley. So now let's jump back up to well, by the way, I got to go back again. So I didn't really want to ride his Goldwing that much. I did ride it some, but I didn't really want to ride it that much. So I got to thinking, you know, they were coming out with the VHS video cameras back then, and I thought, well, all the flying I'm doing and all the fun I'm having, I should get this on tape, you know, record it. So I sold the Goldwing and used the money to buy a nice brand new VHS video recorder. Now, they weren't like your phone. Things have changed so much. It wasn't like your phone. It was like, well, I don't know, maybe a lunchbox or something, but they were big, and they were made to carry on your shoulder, okay? And so I made a lot of videos in my Cessna 150. I had a couple of buddies that liked to fly with me, and they'd hold the camera, and we'd fly under bridges and power lines and do crazy things. and so got a lot of videos of that, which I don't know where they are now because didn't really keep them all or lost them all or something. So anyway, I had that video camera. So when Flybaby came along and everybody was taking videos, I thought I'm gonna go for a ride and take my camera, which is like a big lunchbox, and I'm gonna get some videos of flying this plane up in the air. And so I'm gonna put that up for you, and I'll keep talking, but I'll put it up for you to watch while I'm talking. And this is just a short clip. If you at the end of this video, I'll make a link. I'll put a link to the full 8-minute long video that I made. So anyway, I'll go ahead and get it started. And as you can see, I'm hand propping. Now, hand propping is not very safe if you're not smart. And so I had learned a hand prop using in my 150 because the 150 had a bad starter and they were real expensive to replace. So I just learned how to hand prop it. And by the way, if you see the chocks out in front of the tires, there's a rope going up into the cockpit. I figured that out when I was doing my my 150. You start the engine and then you crawl in and you grab that rope and you pull the chocks and put them in with you. So that's what that is. So anyway, got it hand propped, and then your video you're watching is when I was actually taking off from the Pasco airport, and I had the hard part was I had a stick. It was a stick and rudder airplane. I had a stick I had to keep a hold of, and then I had the camera that I didn't want to drop out of the airplane. That would be illegal anyway. And so I had to get the camera held just right. And so anyway, that's what that video was about. But I did a lot of hand propping. I learned to hand prop airplanes, and I've got a story. Well, let's see, I probably have time to tell you. I was hand propping for this lady that actually, she and her husband bought my 150. And we had, her husband and I had done so much flying in it that when I got my 170, Cessna 170, then, excuse me, then they wanted to buy my 150. And so I sold it to them. Well, when it came time to take lessons, my buddy was so heavy. He was over 200 pounds, and he was so heavy that, coming to a stop sign here, I guess we're good to go, that with him and the instructor in the plane, it exceeded the legal net weight of the plane. Now, him and I had done all kinds of crazy things. I got stories about that. Anyway, so it would fly fine, but it was not legal for him to train somebody that was causing it to be overweight. So they had already purchased it, and so his wife decided, or he decided, or somebody decided that he would let her get her license, and then he could still fly the plane as long as she was in the plane. So she did. She took her license, and she soloed, and she got good at it. And then one day she was going to go up and just fly and get practiced up. And I was at the airport, and she asked me if I'd hand prop it because that was what everybody did to that plane. But and she didn't have any chocks or anything. So anyway, I said yeah. So the way you hand prop a plane is you pull the throttle all the way out and push it in 1/8 of an inch, and then the person in the plane says clear, and so then the person hand propping spins it through a couple of times to get some fuel into the carburetor, and then he hollers contact, and then the person in the plane turns on the mag switch so it'll fire up, and then they holler, they reply back, contact. And so then when you crank the plane, when you crank the prop, excuse me, then it starts. Well, this lady was, she was nervous about flying anyway. And so what I didn't know, it's a good thing she had her feet on the brakes. What I didn't know was that she had it backwards. Instead of pulling the throttle all the way out and pushing in 1/8 of an inch, she pushed it all the way in and pulled it back out 1/8 of an inch. So you can imagine what happened when I hand propped it. All of a sudden it fired up full speed, and it started, I could feel it sucking me towards the prop, and I was only like a foot or so from it anyway when I hand prop it. And it was everything I could do to get back from that prop, and I'm lucky to still have both arms and legs. So anyway, that was a story I throw in. Okay, so I got that. I got to fly the fly baby a lot, but then the pastor he was looking for some kind of a tail dragger, and so he got a Stinson. Now I would never suggest anybody to buy a Stinson. They may not be any left around. It was an old company, and for one thing, it was a fabric-covered airplane except for the tail, which is supposed to be the lightest part of the airplane. And so that was something wrong. And then it didn't have what's called a Continental engine, which a lot of planes had, but it had what was called a Franklin engine, and it was way outdated. So, excuse me. So it was, anyway, it had that engine, and I wouldn't recommend that. So anyway, the pastor put the Flybaby up for sale, and as it turns out, a guy at Bonners Ferry, Idaho, decided he would buy it. So then I had to fly the plane back up to Bonners Ferry, and it was kind of fun because now I was familiar with it, and it had a good seat belt. He had replaced the Buick seat belt with one that comes over your shoulders and all that, and so it was an easy plane to fly, and I could land it no problem. And so anyway, halfway up, because it's a long, slow flight, I needed to stop and refuel. Now, at that time, there was a field called Henley Field, which was not far from Sandpoint, Idaho, and it was a private field, but they sold gasoline, and they had guys that every evening, almost every evening, they would put on an air show with their old airplanes, and they would do stunts and stuff like that. And so it was a popular place for pilots. But eventually, it's not there anymore, but now it's a Silverwood theme park, So, but back then, so when I came in to land to get fuel, I'm in an open cockpit airplane, and I taxi up to where I would get out and get the fuel. These guys that are the pilots of these stunt planes, they come running out. Man, they treated me like I was special. And so they pushed the plane over to where you get some fuel. Of course, I got out and everything, but anyway, they pushed the plane over and fueled me up, and then they helped me get back in the plane and got me on. They even helped buckle me in, make sure I was in good. And so then they hand propped it, and I took off, and as I flew, I had to go to the end of the runway and start over and come up, and they were waving at me, and I was waving down at them. It was a fun experience. So anyway, I flew on up to Bonners Ferry. Now, the pastor had purchased, like I say, he had purchased a Stinson, and so he and the church secretary flew up to bring me home. And so got the plane all sold and everything, and they took off, and with the three of us in that airplane, it would barely climb at when we took off from the airport at Bonner's Ferry. It would barely clear the treetops that were way down at the end of the run. It would not climb, and so it had all kinds of problems. and so anyway, the pastor had spent a lot of money on painting it and making it look nice and everything, but it had issues, and so as it ended up, that Franklin engine needed to be modified. They had the spark plug wires all wrong on it and everything. It still worked, but it wasn't working like it should. And so one winter morning, when everything was covered with snow, I went out to the airport and flew it. I didn't try to fly over the mountains between Hermiston and Pasco aren't real high, but I decided I'm not going to try to fly this over those mountains. I'm just going to fly around the end and just follow the Columbia River and go home or go up to Hermiston that way. So that's what I did, and I landed at Hermiston, and then I had to wait all day or something. I don't remember, but anyway, I had to wait until somebody came by or stopped and came down and picked me up. So anyway, that plane was actually a kind of a piece of junk, and the pastor didn't keep it. But it was one more of those instances when this thing isn't running right. Let's have Kent. Let's have Kent take it and get it fixed. So let me see. That's a park. I can go through that. So anyway, that's what I did one more time, and it was an experience. So anyway, now I had a video recorder, and no more Flybaby, just my 170, Cessna 170, and I got a few more stories about that. So stay tuned, and I'll be putting up more stories. So no more Flybaby. Somebody else had to put up with it. And I want to thank you for watching my videos. And God bless.